All right, let's take a look at number one from this pretest we just had. It says three functions are shown, f, g, and h. The first thing we need to do is find f of g. And so we talked about this quite a bit throughout the school year. This, algebraically speaking, whenever you see this little o, f, o, g, what it's talking about is substitution. You need to substitute. So what we're going to do is substitute the equation g into f. I stack them was my technique I taught you. And I'm going to stack from left to right. So first I'm going to stack the f equation, which is x squared minus 7, and it's going to stack above the g equation, 3x minus 2. Now this is just an x, so I don't have to worry about doing anything below. Over here, I would, if I was given a number, you would put the number and you would start substituting. Let's just say we had the -1 there. And I would substitute way up. Well, this is just an x, so I don't have to worry about that. What I do need to do to solve this problem is substitute the equation g into the x in f's equation. Now, substitution, think of athletics. In athletics, if you're gonna have a substitution, what happens is one player, I'm gonna use this parenthesis as player 1, goes and replaces player number 2. Now, if this other extra stuff represents the rest of the team, you don't change the rest of the team. You're only substituting player 1 for player 2. That's it. Just that switch. So my f of g would be represented by the equation. Instead of x squared, this parenthesis becomes a 3x minus 2 squared minus 7. Now, as I'm looking at the answer choices, none of them are written in that form. That's a vertex form. So I better distribute this math to come up with an algebraic answer here. So I'm going to use box method. So I'm multiplying a 3x minus 2 times itself. That's what squared means, is you multiply this 3x minus 2 times another 3x minus 2. And since they're a group, I'm going to use box method. 3x minus 2 times 3x minus 2. So 3x times, and I'll have a minus 7. Let's go ahead and add that. We will also need to subtract 7. So I'll put that in the outside of the box. So the box method takes care of this. Other students maybe have learned FOIL. I'm going to use box method though. 3x times 3x is 9x squared. 3x times -2 is -6x. -2 times 3x is -6x. And then finally, -2 times -2 is a positive 4. So when I combine my like terms, I should get the solution. Notice I have 9x squared, which all these choices do. Now the question is, -6x and this -6x, are they opposites? Would they simplify or cancel one another out because of being opposites? Well, the answer is no, they're not opposites. They're actually identical, so they combine together. So a -6x and another -6x actually equals -12x. So these two solutions are wrong. Now I have a positive 4 minus 7. The correct answer would be C with the -3 at the end. 4 minus 7 is -3. Now we could have done this in the calculator. So again, I'm going to line this up just like I'll do part B, as if I were going to do it by algebra, and then I'll show you in the calculator. If you were going to use the calculator, what you would do is you would stack the equations in the order shown. So I'm going to stack F on top of G on top of H. Now, for Desmos, you never ever will type in a square bracket. You don't use those on Desmos. Desmos does not use a square bracket, so you're just going to ignore that. But what you will type in instead is, instead of this O for substitution, you're going to use a left parenthesis. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type it in kind of like this, but ignoring the square parentheses. If I have a white, I don't know if I have the color white. Yeah, I do right here. What I'm basically going to do is just kind of white out this because I don't want to type that into the calculator. I'm just going to skip that part. And that's how I'm going to type it in the calculator. So what you're about to see me type in to find my solution is F parentheses G parentheses H parentheses -1. And Desmos will automatically close all three parentheses. I'll go ahead and add it there. So that's what I'm going to type in now. So my first equation is f of x equals x squared minus 7. My second equation, g of x, is equal to 3x minus 2. My third equation, h of x, is 4x squared. And now to type this in, f, so I ignore the square bracket, that's why I kind of did a little white out. Instead of substitution, we do a parentheses, g, parentheses, h, again, ignore the square bracket. So now another left parentheses, -1. And as I was saying, you don't even have to close the parentheses, Desmos will automatically. Tells us the answer is 93. Now that's our solution. Now let's check with algebra to see if that we would have got the same thing. So when we type this in the calculator said the answer is 93. That's what the calculator said. So how would you try this with if you were doing with algebra? Well, I would then say, okay, my x is -1. So I'm going to take -1 right here, and I'm going to substitute just like I did over here. But now I'm doing it with 3 equations plus the value of -1. So it's going to be like 4 substitutions. The first substitution, I'm going to take -1 and substitute in to x right here. So I would have, so h of -1, that's what I'm finding basically, is h of -1 would equal 4 times -1 squared. Well, -1 times -1 is a positive 1. When you multiply that times 4, you get the value 4. So now I'm going to take the 4 and plug that in right here to this x. So 4 is now going in right here. So basically I'm finding g of 4. So notice I'm not finding g of -1 anymore, I'm finding g of 4. And that would be 3 times 4 minus 2. Well, 3 times 4 is 12, and 12 minus 2 is 10. So I now get 10. So now I'm going to take my 10, I'm going to substitute it in to this x right here. So that 10 right here will substitute in to this x. And so this, I'm now finding, whoops, wrong letter. I'm now finding f of 10. And so it'll be 10 squared, I put that for 10 in parentheses, 10 squared minus 7. Well, 10 squared is 100, subtract 7, I'm getting 93. Which is exactly what we should have gotten. So we did it correctly. So f of g of h of -1 would equal -3. 93, excuse me, it would equal 93. Now you have a DOL using the same 3 equations. Using the same 3 equations, I want you to find g of f of h of x and h of g of f of 2. You can use algebra or calculator. Oh, one thing I did not say is, let's just say you want to do this with the calculator. What would you do? Well, you would only need f and g. You wouldn't need h. I'll just turn these all off. You wouldn't even have to have typed in h. So you just needed f and g. But to find this, what I would typed in is ignore the square brackets. I would have done f, left parentheses g, left parentheses x. F, g, f. Let me see where we are here. F, parentheses g, parentheses x. And what would have happened is you would have gotten this parabola, and you could have just matched answers. So I'll do answer choice D. So you'll see the wrong answer would do something like this. The wrong answer would show you a different graph. But the correct answer would give you an overlapping graph, because the algebra would be correct with what Desmos composition. So with that, you try it. Same 3 equations I just was working with, but I want you to find G, F, H. You'll notice that order does matter. It'll change your answer. And then H, G, F, 2.